Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Coast to Coast podcast. We have no Barufi today, but he is in our thoughts as usual. But we do have, yours truly, as well as Jacob still. So, how are we doing, Jacob?
Doing good. We're doing good, man. I think we got a good slate of football coming up this week. We finally get to see Drake May make his debut in the NFL. Spencer Rattler's going to put up a stinker against the Bucks. I can't wait.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And you're right, you are about the Drake May debut. We will talk about that momentarily, about how annoyed I am about the timing of all this and whatnot, and how much of a coaching blunder I think it is. But we'll get into that as we go along in the show. Just a quick shout out, I guess, or reminder to like the video, like the podcast, and subscribe or follow if you're listening on Spotify, because we'd really appreciate it. If you enjoy listening and you think we're at all entertaining whatsoever, we'd really appreciate the support. Yeah. So Barufi can't make it today as a consequence of being kind of near the hurricane a little bit, so he has some storms going on. So we told him, don't worry about it, don't sweat it. We'll take care of the NFL segment. But yeah, hope everything is gonna be okay over there. I imagine it will be just heavy storm, but
Yeah, all should be good. Let's keep our fingers crossed, though.
yep, you
You
never
ready to
know.
jump in? Ready to
Yep,
jump into the recap?
let's do it. Here we go. Fantastic. Week 5 was quite something. I finally had a really solid week for pick'ems, which is great. I think I went 9-5 last week, so we're.
My picks were not good,
Hmm. Oh wait,
but
maybe we only went 8 and yeah, because I picked the goddamn Saints on Monday night. Fuck.
yeah. Hey, I experienced it firsthand. It was not good.
Yeah, I guess okay. So tell me about your experience at Arrowhead Stadium for your first ever NFL
So,
game.
as someone who lives in Wichita, Kansas, Chiefs fans are fucking awful. I think they're the most miserable fan base in Wichita specifically. When I was at the game, they were so nice to me. Honestly, it was an amazing tailgating experience, even as someone who can't drink. I had a great time there hanging out with my best friend and just really getting to socialize with the Chiefs fans there.
Very cool. Very cool. It's unfortunate that your team didn't pull out a win, but I'm glad you had a positive experience. Yeah, maybe it's the Taylor Swift effect. Everyone, all the Chiefs fans are really nice, or something. But you never know. I guess there's a little bit less of a hostility thing maybe when it comes to being in the hometown of the team. Um, not always having to defend them per se, but
I think I think it also helped that I could go in there with my Saints flag on my back and still say "Go Royals."
oh yeah, that's definitely a fair point for sure. And then the Royals ended up winning uh, the day after, which is
No,
cool.
same day.
Was it?
Yeah, I couldn't watch the game because I was at the Chiefs Saints game.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're right about that. I don't know why I got Tuesday and Monday mixed up there, but here we are. I digress. In other news about baseball, real quick, as another quick aside, the Mets have advanced to the NLCS. So just fuck me, I guess, with with my every prediction that I could make possible this postseason. Only one of them has been right so far, which was the Padres advancing over the Braves. Every other thing has been wrong, so we're doing great.
It's okay. We're gonna have a beautiful bracket where both the 1 seed and 2 seed in both leagues, respectively, don't win a single series.
Mm-hmm. That
Fingers
would be
crossed,
nice.
Royals.
That would be nice. I will say though, even though I had the Orioles winning and I had the Astros winning in the wild card series, I did have those two teams also making it to the CS. So I don't know if that counts for anything, but I want it to. I did not prefer either of those the bye teams in that league there. Now, of course, the Padres could also advance still. and that would be a correct prediction for me. So it would only be Padres all the way, I guess. But
Hey, I think Padres would be a blast to watch in the World Series, so I'm cheering for them.
yeah, at this point, that's who I want as well. As much as it pains me to say, I'd much rather them win than the fucking Dodgers. That's for sure. And then the Mets.
Yeah. All right. So we got Houston hosting the Bills in another flashback to Ken Dorsey days because the play calling for the Bills was not great.
Oh, yeah.
Nico Collins, unfortunately, is on the IR, which sucks because he was on an absolute tear for the Texans.
Hmm.
Stephon Diggs fantasy owners are going to go crazy now. Uh, but CJ Stroud looked good. He clutched up against a really good team in the same conference, so this is valuable for seeding later on in the season.
Right.
But absolute high quality game. Just need better play calling from the Bills. I mean, I feel like it's the same thing every year.
Yep. Better play calling. You can't go down 20-3. That's just ridiculous. I don't care who you're going up against. If you're the Bills, they've done this twice now too. By the way, in Week 1 they were down 17-3. I think it was against the Cardinals. Now they did come back and win that game with some Josh Allen MVP type stuff going on. But I mean, once again, you find yourself in such a huge hole and you climb your way back out of it, but then you kind of crash and burn at the very end as well. So, it's a good win for the Texans in every way that you said, where Stroud was pretty good. And for seeding in the future, this is great for them. They're 4-1, great start to the year. But again, very similar hangups that I've had with on the Texans all season. Like you're up 20-3. This should not be a field goal difference and at the final seconds of the game.
Mm.
So I still have problems with that. You got to put the game away. There was no reason to allow the Bills to claw their way back like they did, and obviously they don't intend for that to happen. I'm not saying it like that, but it's a concern of mine, especially when you go up against a team like Kansas City in the postseason, and they also play each other later in the year too. You're not going to be able to do that. You need to keep them at an arm's length. You can't let them get to a elbow length away. So
Absolutely.
yeah, but
I
solid win.
Yeah. Jags break out of the donut. They finally get a victory on their plate, and I actually think they should have a good chance of winning this next week as well. We'll get to that later.
Hmm.
But the Colts are just stinky. The whole AFC South is a disappointment as far as not taking the steps that we thought they would. Even
Yeah,
the Texans, who are playing really good football, still have those hangups. So we want them. They have all the potential to be the best team in football right now, but they just aren't executing on the level they should be. Jags look like miserable garbage. Doug Peterson probably needs to be fired. We'll get to that later. Colts also pretty bad. I mean, we had Joe Flacco win, so we kind of expected their offense to be good, but why the hell are they allowing the Jags to put up 37 when they haven't been good on offense all season? Um, Honestly, just middling levels of play. Very clearly, these two teams are low level in the NFL.
yeah, and it's unfortunate, especially on the Jags case, in my opinion, because I think the Jags roster overall is super talented. Trevor Lawrence at quarterback, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, who had a huge game this week. Really nice tandem at running back. I like, for how much I shit on the receiving core, it's not that Christian Kirk is a scrub by any means. He's a very solid receiver, and Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be a star. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. I thought he had a fantastic game as well. So it's really nice to see him get more involved in the offense as the season progresses. And then the defense, they also have pieces on the defense. Joshua Hines Allen has been really, I mean, this big standout so far for them, and kind of been the only piece that's been consistently really good. But they have other guys there that they just need to come together, and it sucks that they started 0-4 because that really does like kill your chances at any kind of postseason. But they also last season they started off pretty rough. Then they got a big win, and then they went on a huge streak. And then here's the problem, though: they didn't finish last season either. They had a couple disastrous losses down the stretch toward the end of the season, particularly the one against the Titans at the very end of the season, which decided that division, more or less, at least as far as their playoff chances. And so it's just about cleaning that stuff up. But I just don't see that happening with this coaching staff, and like you said, we'll get into it. But yeah, I mean, look, the Jaguars should be better than this, and they showed that they can be better week by week in this one. Winning a shootout is really important.
Yeah. I think they should be massively involved in trying to get Robert Saleh to come down to Jacksonville, mostly because I think their defensive progression as far as rookies go has been pretty mediocre. When you
Hmm.
have like talents like Caleb on Chason and Trayvon Walker becoming absolute non-factors at the NFL level, shows a clear structural issue with the coaching staff.
Right, right. And even, Arik Armstead, who was a fantastic player for the 49ers, has kind of gone down there and disappeared, really. I haven't heard his name called once this season so far. So, tough
Yeah,
one.
surely a disaster class.
Yeah.
And speaking of disaster class, another coach who is on the very, very hot seat. I'm sick of Zach Taylor. I know you said this earlier in the season, and I'm a little bit slow getting here, but what the fuck, dude? Joe Burrow is playing at an MVP like level. He always balls out against Baltimore, and you're taking his hands because you have trust in a 50-yard field goal. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's a really tough look. It's all around. It's really tough. The whole slow start thing, which is why I hopped off the train. Even and look, this was my coach of the year pick, and this was my MVP pick. Like I was big into the Bengals this season. I thought they had a very favorable schedule. I thought they could really get cooking early, which is something they haven't done in the past. But again, it's the same. Just like with the Texans last season, it's the same exact hangups I have with this team. They slow ass start where they look like garbage on both sides of the ball. And now it's, your offense is coming together. They're gelling. Everyone's playing. Everyone's healthy, right? And now it's your defense. It's like, what the hell is going on here? You have talented pieces on the defense, and they can't stop children. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. And they pretty consistently had a 10-point lead as well in this game, and to see that go away is also the other thing that's like, come on, guys, like I don't know. In a shootout, you have to keep that. Like I said earlier, you have to keep that arm's length away. Otherwise, teams are going to claw their way back. And a team like the Baltimore Ravens in this division is a really tough out. And to your point about Joe Burrow having a phenomenal game, Lamar Jackson was also just truly incredible in this game. I thought he had some absolute pearls that he threw to all three of his tight ends actually. So fantastic job by him, and taking advantage of the missed field goal in overtime. That's you know, so yeah, tough one for the Bengals, but yeah, again, 1-4 start, just like the Jaguars. Like that is just so tough to claw back from. You have to in the next 12 games, you have to play like 10-2 football. If you want a legitimate shot at a wild card spot. So it's just brutal. It's tough to expect any team to do that. So we'll see what happens. They're still should be a very good team down the stretch. Should be a very tough out. I just don't know if I see them in the postseason at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to pick either of them to make the postseason, like you said. To talk about more disappointing dog shit,
Oh my
I
god,
was right about my Dolphins pick. Jared Mayo, I'm already firing this guy because I didn't think he should have been hired in the first place. But
dude, it is such a disaster. I can't believe we're at where we are. And this they were controlling the like
they were
85% of
winning
this
the whole
game.
game.
And I just don't understand. And this is like the past couple weeks have been a perfect time, not against the Niners, but they've had a few games that would have been the perfect time to put Drake May in. And this game may be the golden opportunity to put him in against the depleted Dolphins that are not good. This should be such a winnable game like that. But they just don't do it. Brissett looks awful. And it's not, I mean, did we expect much? No. But still, like, I don't understand the philosophy. We talked about it before the season as well. We just don't get the philosophy. And now you're going to put him up. We'll talk about this in a minute as well. But you're gonna start him against Houston. Like that is just asking for trouble. It's just so irresponsible. Uh,
It's it's really irritating. And I said this preseason too. I had them winning this game preseason in our preseason predictions specifically because I thought this would be when they start Drake May. Perfect opportunity. Bad, dwindling Dolphins team. Don't look good anywhere. They look honestly like they're I don't know how to describe it. They just look like they shouldn't be in the NFL because of how poorly they're executing, how bad this team is coached. They have talent, they're just doing nothing with it. And you don't bring in the quarterback who is like all the potential in the world, but he's raw and needs reps. And he has a perfect opportunity to come in here against a team that's not been coached well on either side of the ball. And instead, you throw out Brissett, and Brissett, who's supposed to be a savvy vet, who could be a like slightly below average starter, he comes in and looks fucking terrible. Still, that guy needs
Yep.
to not be a starter in this league. At
Yep.
best, backup.
Yep.
Like you can only put 10 points on this Dolphins team at home. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's just bad.
Bad football all around, but good on Miami, I guess. If Tua comes back, anytime soon, I guess it's best that they can rack up wins where they can get them. If they want to maintain some sort of competence down the stretch. So good on them for getting a win, and kind of stealing it, but a win's a win regardless. Um, yeah, all right. I mean, I don't want to go into too much more because we do have the head coach tier list later on in this
Yeah.
episode. I hope you're all excited for that one.
Surprisingly, a lot to talk about so early in the season.
Yeah, yeah. Next up,
Um,
the Broncos at home dominating against the Raiders. But it took a while for them to get into that dominant fashion. But by the end of it, it looked like men against boys, really. So
yeah. Bo Nix finally looked like he deserved to be in the NFL. And in the game where he actually looks pretty good, he's already cussing out Sean Payton on the sideline. So great culture over there. Not much else to say. We'll talk about this more in the head coach tier list, but yeah, just two Met teams, one Met team looking a lot better than the other today.
yeah, the Raiders overall just complete disaster in my opinion. Particularly in this game, but I think a disaster throughout the entire year. They shouldn't be this bad, but they are. Gardner Minshew has gotten worse every week, I feel like, whereas inversely, Bo Nix has gotten better each week, in my opinion. Uh,
Mhm.
at least, on average. So, solid win
Wait,
for
wait,
the
wait,
Broncos.
wait.
Yeah.
Real quick. So Jaden Daniels each week has gotten better. Bo Nix each week has gotten better. Caleb Williams each week has gotten better. Drake May sits on the bench. Doesn't get better. Doesn't get reps.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
Crazy how that works, right? With more NFL experience, you get better at the game. I Oh man, do we get into this rant right now? I just don't get the whole sitting a quarterback anyway. I understand uh like if they get a career-ending injury that sets your franchise back a lot, but they're never gonna they are never going to learn more sitting behind Jacoby Brissett as well, mind you. Not This isn't Aaron Rodgers, this isn't Brett Favre, that they're sitting behind. It's Jacoby Brissett with an offense of not a lot of talent. So what are they going to learn more sitting behind that than just actually getting NFL experience and playing in the NFL and learning and growing and like let them make the rookie mistakes, that type of thing. The whole logic just makes no sense. We don't do this with other positions. We don't take a top 5 pick who's an edge rusher, who's a generational talent, and say like, okay, you're gonna sit behind this guy for who's been in the NFL for 8 years and he's been a rotational backup for 8 years, but you know what? He has more NFL experience. You're gonna sit behind him so you can learn. No, you're gonna put him in the damn game so he can learn. We only do this with quarterbacks, and it's so frustrating, so stupid.
They didn't do this back in the day, and it's just irritating to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
But
100%. Look, the Broncos are frisky, I guess. This defense is playing a lot better than they probably should, at least on paper. But it helps when you have the best cornerback in football, at least right now,
yeah,
as part of
Surtain's
that
a
unit.
dog.
Yeah, and credit to them as well. They're creating turnovers. Not just Sertan, but just in general, they are creating turnovers. And even if you're not the best defensive unit in football, if you can create turnovers at a consistent rate that helps your offense out with great field position and whatnot, I mean, that is just huge. That is just so massive. I would probably take a mediocre defensive unit that creates a ton of turnovers over a great defensive unit that doesn't really. I don't know. That's an interesting conversation to have, at least. We'll see.
Absolutely.
Maybe we talk about it down the stretch here in a later episode. But all right. London game.
Vikings beat the Jets in London. Didn't realize this was a London game during last week's episode.
Yeah, I didn't either. I just totally, yeah.
Regardless, Vikings take care of business. Saleh gets fired.
Which I will talk
Aaron
about that
Rodgers
too.
is Aaron Rodgers is the GM of the Jets, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
It's just so fucking weird. That team's gonna plummet, I think.
Yep.
But Vikings continue to look good. Shouldn't have been this close. Won the game pretty much all throughout. Let them claw back in, but it was never really within reach, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it looked like maybe people will critique the Vikings a little bit for not being like that great in this game, but I mean, you just chalk it up to the London travel, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And still taking care of business, like you said, not dropping a game just because you traveled, where the other team traveled to. So good win for them. They're looking like, in my opinion, they're the best team in football right now. And I don't know if it's really close. There are some other really solid teams, and we're going to talk about another one just now. In the Washington Commanders trouncing yet another opponent in the lowly Cleveland Browns. Man, I mean, they are just so impressive on both sides of the ball. It really, it's wild. It is wild to see. I'm really happy for Jaden Daniels. He was my 4th overall quarterback in the draft. I still had a top 20 grade on him, so I'm still happy with him. And he's just been fantastic. I mean, really, and every week getting just so much better each time. Some of these throws that he's making are just really just perfect gems. His rushing ability is great. But I think a lot of credit also has to come to the coaching staff as well. And we'll talk more about the coaching in a bit, but I think Cliff Kingsbury's been calling a fantastic offense for this team. I think his role is best seen as an offensive coordinator, and it's showing so far. And then Dan Quinn, I think, has gotten this defense that isn't the very talented outside of the defensive front 4. They're playing pretty well right now, and so a lot of credit has to be given, I think, to the coaching staff as much as the players executing.
Yeah, I'm really happy for Dan Quinn. I didn't expect much of him going to Washington. We both had him as like higher, I believe. But he's doing everything that he needs to do as a head coach, keeping the ducks in a row, letting the offensive coordinator cook. Cliff Kingsbury, proud of him. I liked him as a person. I thought he was a good coach too in Arizona. Not a good head coach, but he called a good offense. Speaking of Cliff Kingsbury, I actually think that Jane Daniels is playing what I expected Kyler Murray to play like coming out of college. So he's doing everything that he can to learn from his failure as a head coach and apply that to be a good coordinator, and it's really showing out there. I think I'm going to be the first person to, or not first person at all, but like I think I'm going to be the first one on the podcast to go ahead and switch, and I think the Washington Commanders are probably the team to represent the NL East. The NFC East.
Yeah. Look, they certainly can do that. The Eagles can't count them out yet. They're getting healthy again. They just had their bye week, so they can really regroup there. And Jalen Hurts can get better. He's been awful so far, so he can get better and improve and play up to what he did, 2 seasons ago. Dallas does not look good at all. I just don't know what to say about them. We'll talk about them in just a second. And then the Giants are pretty frisky too, actually. And we'll talk about them in momentarily as well. But yeah, Washington, really, it's really advantageous to have a great start, and they've been having a great start. I think all 3 of us though said that didn't have them obviously winning the division or anything, but being a pretty frisky team and a tough out for a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
teams. And they're not just being just a tough out; they're being way better
The
than their
team.
opponents. Yeah. And the Browns are just really, really bad. I think they're really poorly coached right now. Which is, I mean, Kevin Stefanski, he's won a Coach of the Year with this team. And this is just awful. Deshaun Watson is awful. How much longer do you have the other players on this roster have to go through this? You have to start Winston at some point, right? I don't know. I just
Have you
don't know.
seen? Did you see the play where Stefanski was trying to go for it on fourth, and Deshaun just walks off the field?
I didn't see that, but I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean, it's quite indicative of what we've seen so far this season. I mean, it is just a disaster over there. Uh, yeah, and there's just too much talent on this team for it to be a disaster the way it is. It's crazy.
I. It's honestly awesome that the whole world of sports just has unified to absolutely despise Deshaun Watson, and I love that so much. Um, Not much has changed as far as play. Like you said, this team is dwindling bad.
Mm-hmm.
There's I keep picking against them on my eliminator, and I'm getting nervous doing it because they have all the talent to win. They just aren't.
Yeah.
The second they start Jameis Winston, though, they're going to have a pretty or a pretty steep improvement, I think. But alas, we have the dog shit matchup of the week. The Cowboys played in a monsoon against the Steelers. Um, Nobody really cared to watch this game. The best two players on Dallas weren't playing outside of CeeDee Lamb because DeMarcus Lawrence and Michael Parsons both were no shows today, or
Yeah.
not today, but Sunday.
Yeah.
Um, Justin Fields is absolute dog water. The people who believe in him are fucking stupid, and I love that that is showing. Russell Wilson is healthy and active, or should be starting next week. If he's not, I'm really questioning if Mike Tomlin should be a head coach in the NFL. Uh, how do you not win this game? I don't know, but hey, I
Yeah.
picked Cowboys to win it, so good on them
No.
for somewhat coming or somehow coming away with the W.
Yeah. You have a great point, though. I mean, the Steelers had ample opportunities to put this thing away and just dig Dallas's grave. I mean, Dak had 4 turnovers in this game. Dak alone, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, and all 4 of them, or at least 3 of the 4, occurring in the red zone. I mean, this game could have been a blowout either way. Dallas could have blown them out if they actually convert and Dak can prevent those turnovers. Pittsburgh could have blown them out if they actually scored on those turnover drives. So it was just really bizarre. Honestly, the most boring outcome we could have gotten, where nothing really happened on any of those drives. So I mean, good on the Cowboys for clutching up at the very end and getting that final touchdown to win the game. They should have been winning this game, regardless of the injuries, in my opinion. Yeah, Fields is absolutely horrendous at quarterback. I guess at this point, though, he's made a couple plays here and there where you feel good about him being a backup for you, but I agree. There's no doubt in my mind that Russell Wilson should be the starting quarterback of this team right now.
Yeah, 100%. It's honestly just pathetic they couldn't come away with a win in this game, but
It is.
I
It is. Pathetic is a great
the
word for it.
the only question I have about the Steelers is are the Jets getting to the point where they're more unwatchable than the Steelers because they're both pretty fucking unwatchable.
Yeah. They're turning in the most boring performances every week. I mean, and the Steelers did this last week too with that quarterback carousel that they had. I mean, this is just a boring ass football team. They don't give a shit. It's just so weird. It's so bizarre. I don't understand it.
Yeah. Moving on to my game, the Saints losing at Kansas City and the Chiefs. The only time that this game felt close was on the really deep touchdown pass to Rashid Shaheed.
Hmm.
I don't know how he keeps doing it because his routes are not that great, but he keeps finding busts and coverage to get deep with his speed. And, Derek Carr's pretty good at hitting him. He throws to Shaheed probably way too much. Um, I think he really needs to be feeding Olave a whole lot more. And the Saints desperately need a receiver 3 because outside of those two guys,
Dude, that
teams keep covering. Huh?
that fourth down where Tipton just dropped the ball, my heart sank for you in the stands. Like how the like no, okay, so many multiple
He
issues
was
with that.
open. One, he's open. Two, he hit the throw on a throw that should have been like
It was a
nowhere near. I
perfect
mean,
throw. It was a perfect throw.
yeah, great. Derek Carr played a good game last or Monday night, whatever. Fuck. He played a good game. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that. The biggest issue was we couldn't run the ball, and our O line didn't do anything.
Yep.
Our O line let way too much pressure get
Yep.
through. The interception that he threw, that everyone, oh wow, how do you dog? He was trying to throw it away, and he just didn't get
I
enough on it.
that I know you were at the game, so you weren't reading Discord, but I was literally saying that. I like you look at on that the second he snaps the ball, he has Chiefs players in his face. I mean, he has to, and the amount of times to me, this is a huge blunder on the play calling as well. Which is, I think has gotten progressively worse each week, which is really unfortunate because they had such a
I
great
think he was
start.
still the worst in the Falcons game.
It may have been for sure, but my like your weakness right now on the offense is the interior offensive line, especially with Cesar Ruiz out, right? You have multiple injuries at that position. You have multiple like young players who don't have a lot of experience there. So why do you keep calling so many plays under center where Derek Carr has to drop back 5 to 7 steps? I mean, I understand like this is sort of the identity of the offense where you do that, you run the ball, you hand the ball off to Kamara. He's more the facilitator, but like you need this is your active weakness here. And on that interception, he's under center. The ball gets snapped. He has to drop back 7 steps, 5 steps, 7 steps, uh, with Chiefs in his face because they're immediately winning in the interior. And so yeah, he just tries to throw it away, doesn't have enough on it, and it comes down in a pick. It was a nice play by the defender too. It wasn't an easy catch.
Yeah, he had to make a really good leap.
And at the same time as well, I also put a ton of blame on Shaheed, I think it was, who was the receiver in the area. Why aren't you playing
Didn't go up for the
defense
ball at
there?
all.
Like, you can't just watch him come down with the ball. You have to play defense at that point. Help your quarterback out a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, just to, like, it felt like everything on that offense, on that play, was worse than Derek Carr. But everyone was just like, look at this fucking terrible pick. It's like, are you even looking at the screen, or are you just like he threw a pick so nothing else matters? Like, why do we extend so much not credit, but like we give so many excuses for other quarterbacks when a pass gets tipped or something, and or a receiver bobbles the ball and it goes into the other team's hands. It's like that should not count as an interception. But this one, which is basically, I mean, really an air punt, or a throwing punt.
On first
Or
down, by the way.
was it? I thought it was on third down.
No, it was first.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, regardless, you know what I mean. Like this is not when I it's just bizarre. But he did the play calling though, and he did that multiple times later on, where on third down it just felt like they were punting the ball. You know, he just threw it down the field, and it's like, we need 7 yards? Why aren't we doing anything in the intermediate uh, game here? Like they have gaping holes in the second level of their defense, and we're not attacking it at all. And that would have been a perfect time for Olave to come alive there. But I felt like his routes that he was coached to do, and you know, all the play calling was just really uninspired. There was a recipe for winning this game, despite you know getting shut down on the run, but it just didn't happen. You know.
Yeah, so as someone who was there at the game, there were some things that were painfully obvious. One, we only ran like 2 screens, I think, the entire game, which is if you have Kamara, you got to run more than 2 screens. Like that's just stupid that was how it's done. Especially when your offensive line isn't good, you need to run the ball in the sense of short passes, quick passes
Yes.
that are lateral, so that way you can get them out and running. So that way it's easier to make those blocks on your O line.
Yep.
It also builds momentum up slowly as the drive goes instead of doing these really long dropbacks with long developing routes when you know they're going to get blown up. Is really fucking annoying watching Juju Smith-Schuster torch our defense
Yep.
because for the life of me, we couldn't fucking cover the middle. They do the same thing every single play on offense, and it keeps working because you don't cover it because you keep running man, and then you put a linebacker on Juju Smith-Schuster, who I fucking hate, by the way. He's so annoying and miserable to watch, but he keeps having 150-yard games out of nowhere and is always Sorry,
What happened?
my mic just fell off.
Oh,
We have a fucking 150-yard game out of nowhere with a touchdown against my team and goes fucking on crazy because we
mhm.
just don't cover him. Paulson Adebo sucks. Alante Taylor needs him in coverage. I know Alante's been great in blitz packages, but flat out Paulson Adebo can't cover. I thought the pass interference they called on him on that deep route to Worthy was pretty ticky tacky. I felt like Worthy was kind of just making a lunge at the ball instead of just falling over because he got pushed. So
I
I think
I will disagree. I think that was a good call. And you didn't say it was a terrible call, but I do think that was the
right
right call to make there. I do think that they missed one though later in the game
on the
that would have
same.
favored the Saints. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, I can't remember who it was against, but everyone was like, everyone in the stands next to me was like, "Good no call." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Hmm.
It was irritating. They also never showed replays on anything that would have been against the Chiefs, so that was kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
So I couldn't watch it back and like, okay, maybe I was wrong on that. It was just okay. I guess that was not a replay worthy play. Um, but yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster can't go off for 150 against your
Yeah.
cannot happen in 2024. And you, this is so. I want to go back to this real quick. The reason why I said the Saints play calling against was the worst was because the announcers were saying it. I was saying it. Everyone watching that game was the right offensive line side is not blocking on runs. Why do you keep running them? And like magic almost, they would run outside zone, inside zone to the left side, gain like 7 and 8 yards. And then they would turn around and run to the right side and get tackled 2 yard loss
Hmm.
every single time for like two drives in a row. This happened where they would do like two plays to the left side and it would go for 8, 9 yards. And then they do a run to the right side and it's blown up. Why do you keep fucking yourself over? It hasn't worked. Stop calling it.
Hmm.
Adapt, overcome. You have a chance to win this game where you should win this game. You have no offensive production from the Falcons, and yet you can't outscore them because you just keep calling shit plays. Kubiak, you are already on my shit list because such simple things that are very close to just being blatantly in front of your face, and you're still looking beside them. I, I just can't. This Saints team infuriated me. They got me hyped up for the season just to be a big, massive letdown.
Yeah, they went 2-0 just for them to be the Saints that we expected going into it,
Yep.
which is unfortunate. But look, I mean, like the ingredients are there. It's just not coming together to make a recipe. I guess I don't know. Yeah, it's just a tough game. Finally, though, the Chiefs win a game that they actually deserve to win. I guess
Yeah,
that's
I
kind of
didn't
a
say that,
that's a
but the
harsh way to
Chiefs
put
actually
it,
did
but
look good this week.
yeah,
So the Chiefs looked like they should.
yeah.
So that's good.
Harsh way to put, with deserving, but because they escaped other games, but I don't know. I and the other, yeah, what you were talking about with them not playing good coverage on defense, like at all. And one of the things that I noticed, and one of the things that always every week gets exploited by the Chiefs on offense is nobody like one the run game was fantastic for the Chiefs. So you have to defend the run at some point. I mean, or they're just going to keep running the ball, and they just kept running the ball, and it was kept being effective with Kareem Hunt. Like, and then the other thing, nobody ever covers the flat against the Chiefs, and that's where I mean, like, Mahomes can throw a 70-yard bomb for a touchdown, sure, and he can make a fantastic throw on the run 15 yards downfield for an intermediate completion, sure, but where they make their money is in the flat every week. I'm telling you, like, seriously, every week it's in the flat, and nobody covers the flat against them. I understand you don't want to get
Doesn't
beat over the middle, but like, they're just going to keep abusing the spots that you don't cover, and you're not covering the flat. So
Yeah, doesn't Mahomes have like a bottom five average depth of target?
I wouldn't be
It's
surprised this season for sure. Yeah, I mean,
it's
so many
something
of them
like
have
that.
been so many of them have been very very quick short passes into the flat, or on quick curls or quick slants or things of that nature. And there was this other one. It was right before their first touchdown, I think, where it was a designed rollout and it went to Noah Gray, who was the tight end for that play, and it was a big
Mhm.
gain to get like right, goal to go. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing. I see them do that play like 8 times a game, and nobody ever sees it coming. It blows my mind. I mean, every time it's a designed rollout, the tight end is gonna chip for like a second longer than he usually does, or usually would on other teams, and then he gets open for a pass because nobody's covering that area. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts.
Sorry, I know we're talking a lot about this game, but it also another thing that pissed me off was the decision to call timeouts on the Chiefs when they were like backed up or whatever right before halftime, and then immediately calling three straight low chance completion pass plays to give the Chiefs time to then get the ball back and get a field goal,
Hmm.
which is what you knew they would do because they're really fucking good at it. They steal points all the time by
Yep.
being effective on those important moments, and you just gave them a silver like platter for it to fucking take it on.
Yep.
It was just a massive disappointment. And I know I just said Alontae should be starting over Paulson Adebo. But if you really feel like he needs to be on the field, put him in the slot and put Kool-Aid McKinstry, who you traded up for, on the outside corner spot because there's no reason that you trade up for a corner that doesn't even see the field.
Right. Right. And he's a ball hawk type as well. He's gonna create turnovers whenever he gets his
Yeah.
chance. So yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunate. There's still time to right the ship. But it's just a tough loss.
Absolutely. Speaking of tough losses, overtime rules, do they need to be changed? Yeah,
Absolutely.
probably.
Yeah, I think at this point, you make the change in the postseason, and I think usually when that happens, when you get some kind of progress in these aspects of the game, where they make the postseason change for the overtime, it'll eventually become the thing in the NFL or in the regular season as well. So I expect that to happen soon. Um, I don't there isn't a single salient argument in favor of this current format. Not one. Well, you have to play defense too. Well, make the other team prove that they can play defense as well. This isn't one-sided thing. You're still, once again, if you use that argument, you're still defaulting to the coin flip. It comes down to whoever gets the ball first. That's stupid. Um, that's the one thing. The other thing is like they don't want to go forever for player injuries. Well, don't have an overtime period at all then in the regular season if that's the case. If we're so worried about
Yeah.
injuries, like why even play in overtime? We settle for ties after one period anyway if it comes down to that. Why not just settle for a tie at the end of regulation? I
I
other
also think
uh,
it entirely discredits the matchup of the game too, because you could have a shootout, and when those go to overtime, like obviously the first team that gets the ball is going to win. But then
right.
you also have um, ones where it's just a bad defense versus a good offense, but the team with the bad defense may have the best offense in the league. Well, that best offense in the league might not even get a show at time. Like it's poor system.
Yeah,
No other major sports team or sorry league doesn't allow both sides to get the possession of the ball.
right.
So I just think that's bad practice. Um, that being said, Kirko Chains finally looked like Kirko Chains we expected him to be. And when I say expected, I did not expect 500 yards, but he actually looked like a really solid starter for the first time this year, I think. And Baker Mayfield continues to show out as an OU fan and huge Baker fan. This is fucking awesome. We all
Mm-hmm.
love Baker, I think.
Yeah.
Really fun to watch. Absolute amazing game for Thursday night. Something we don't expect from Thursday night football. But yeah, probably the best game of the week.
Yeah, tremendous game. Really, really classic old fashioned shootout. And like you said, it sucks that it, is decided, a shootout. Once again, teams are going back and forth scoring. It's decided on 3 plays into overtime. Like that's tough. But credit to the Falcons as well, though. Both teams made mistakes, especially toward the end of the game, but the Falcons were able to capitalize better. And Young Ku, this fucking guy will nail just an unbelievable kick in such a high pressure situation just to miss a 37 yarder in the first quarter.
Could he hit the unbelievable high pressure situation game winning kick against?
Say it again.
Who did he hit that unbelievable like high pressure high stakes kick
Oh,
against?
the New Orleans Saints.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough one.
Uh, no kidding.
Uh,
Um, Panthers, they're doing their best impression of the Jaguars, and by that I mean being the worst team in the NFL back-to-back years.
Yep. At this point, it'll be 3 years strong, right? Um,
Has it been three?
almost.
Damn, there's
I mean, when they traded up, they traded up from ninth overall, so they weren't good that year by any means, but
yeah,
close
that's
enough.
fair. Bears, as I don't want to say poorly, but as mediocrely coached as they are, they got so much help from that trade with the Panthers
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that trade is going to go down in history as something that made one team bad for a decade and could possibly make the other team great for a decade just
Mm-hmm.
because of the amount of value differential in that trade.
Yep.
But Bears continue to progress and get better. I still think that this is a really, really poorly coached team. Waldron needs to be fired, I think, but he should have never got the job in the first place. Eberflus probably should have been traded in for somebody better in the season. As weird as this is to say, I think Dave Canales would have been a great hire for them, as not great with Carolina. I think that's more of a talent issue than a coaching issue.
Oh yeah, talent issue
But
for sure.
Bears come in, execute against a bad team, make them look bad. The Bears look like a top 12 team, probably. Should be playoffs, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, certainly over the past couple weeks, that's how they've looked. Cleaning up mistakes on offense, which is good. That's what you want to see from Caleb Williams. Crazy. No one's talking about Caleb Williams anymore now that he's playing well. It's unbelievable, right? Uh, there's
Yeah.
so many people taking victory laps after week 2 of his first NFL season, and now he's, coming together, putting some things together. It's still not perfect by any means, but he's doing a much better job of protecting the football, finding open receivers, extending plays, a correct amount. We'll say that. So good job by them. The defense is again still very solid unit overall, with pretty good players on every level of the defense. Jalen Johnson's a dog. Jaquan Brisker has been fantastic. I think he's injured though now, which is
Hmm.
unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, look, the Panthers had their honeymoon game with Andy Dalton at quarterback a couple weeks ago. Now they're regressing back to the mean of what they should be, and this is a team that can score against mediocre or bad defenses, but will never ever stop or should never ever stop the opponent from scoring. Like it's just
Right.
yeah, tough one, really tough one, and a tough situation for Canales. I hope they don't blame him for all of this because it's not his fault.
They're probably going to, and then go back to their ways of hiring a really old head coach. Speaking of tough one, do you want to take the floor here?
I mean, yeah, I guess, but there's nothing much. There's nothing much really to say. This is just the most typical fucking Shanahan loss ever. Once again, we've had 2 of them this season already, both against division opponents. We week 2 or week 3 rather against the Los Angeles Rams, and then now against the Cardinals. I don't get it. We're up big. We're up like 13 points at one point, and we're just not running the ball. And I understand, like you can't just only run the ball, when you get to that point. But I mean, you're not helping Brock out at all by just calling 3 straight passing plays, and when the offensive line has been as bad as it is, and yeah, just I think the play calling, Shanahan's getting in his head again, and he does this often early in the season. I feel. I'm still not panicking. Look, this is still a very, very, very great roster, full of star players at every position, really. Uh, and they're going to come together. This is a team. I mean, the 49er fan base is just in utter shambles right now. Through any way that you can imagine a fan base being in shambles, they're in shambles. It is crazy. I've seen some of the wackiest takes imaginable. Once again, as usual, every time this happens, and this happens every
Hey,
year. This happens every year. I don't understand how it sucks that we're 2-3 and that we have to do this every year. Have to have a slow start. The last season was the first time really that we had like a great start, and then we had a rough middle section. But I mean, like we started 4-6 one year, went to the NFC Championship. We started 3-5 the next year. Actually, I think we started 3-5 in 2022 when Brock took over. Brock took over in week 13 or whatever, so that record was better by then.
Mhm.
But we started 3-5 that year, and we made it to the NFC Championship game. I just this so much overreacting. Now, are they playing good football? Absolutely not. That defense is just bad. I mean, nobody is really playing well outside of Fred Warner and occasionally Nick Bosa. But Bosa, he's the only guy who's creating on the defensive line, really. So they just double him on every play and hold him because he doesn't get any holding calls. Every other edge rusher or every other great edge rusher gets calls in their favor except for him. It's so weird.
Max Crosby too. Max Crosby kind
Yeah,
of gets
that's
shafted.
actually true. Yeah. So like you just have to double him and throw it where Fred Warner isn't, and you're getting a first down. Like that's what it comes down to. Uh, there was one play, finally one play that Devondre Campbell was actually like NFL quality level, and by any means, he has been absolutely atrocious. I cannot wait for Dre Greenlaw to come back. But Campbell finally makes any kind of play. They finally are blitzing this week, by the way, too, which probably didn't help the secondary much because now the secondary sucks. Um, but he blitzes. He gets a hand up and bats the ball down that Kyler throws. And if you watch it on the tape on the All-22, if he didn't bat the ball down, again, good defensive play, fine, whatever. But if he doesn't bat the ball down, Fred Warner has it perfectly read, and he probably intercepts it and takes it for 6 again in back-to-back weeks. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, man, this is just bad luck, you know? Like, this is just horrible. So that's really unfortunate, but you can't let a team like this claw back. Down 10 points in the fourth quarter once again. It's just brutal play calling on both sides of the ball, brutal execution by the personnel. Purdy wasn't great in this game. I'm always one to sing the praises of Purdy when he's fantastic, and for the most part, he's been fantastic all season. This is probably his weakest game of the season, surprisingly.
And the stats still look worse than they actually were.
Yes, they do. Both of his interceptions, I don't believe were his fault. Maybe the second one to close the game out, he held onto the ball too long. But again, what do you expect him to do? I just see so many critics. Go ahead.
he th- he throws a dump off because the play developed for too long and it gets batted in the complete opposite direction, straight up in the air. Like, what are you gonna do,
Yeah,
man? That's
and I feel like 60% of his interceptions are tips, just tip drill interceptions, and half of them this season have been tip drill interceptions that he's thrown. It's really unlucky, and good play by the Cardinals, but I mean, if you're the Niners offensive line, what the fuck are you doing? Get their hands down, man. Do not let the defensive linemen that are 6 inches to 8 inches taller than Brock, don't let them get their hands up. Let them throw the ball, yeah, and they consistently had that problem all week. And it sucks because when you do that, when you can't give him a chance in the pocket to make a throw because the hands are all coming up, you're not blocking properly. That forces him. It makes him feel like he has to get out of the pocket to make a throw. And I think we saw a little bit of that this week as well. Times where he maybe gets a little spooked, and he escapes early, and he didn't need to, and it creates a little bit of trouble for him. And but again, he kind of has to run for his life too, So it's like such a two-way street. It's just so bizarre. The vibes are not right now, but again, the vibes weren't right in the past too, several times now. This is just what happens in this Shanahan scheme, this regime, So I'm still not worried. I think, and it's a tough schedule. We play the Seahawks on Thursday, but that should be a good game regardless of who wins.
yeah.
And then we play the Chiefs after that, which, if it's the Chiefs of the first 4 weeks that show up, I think we have a really solid chance. If it's the Chiefs of week 5 that show up, we probably lose that one too. Then we have Dallas, and then the bye. So, if we come out of, I mean, if we win all 3 games, then that's fantastic. If we come out of it winning 2 of them and we're 4-4, I think we're still looking really good for the rest of the year.
I honestly think you guys have the perfect defensive matchup against the Chiefs, strictly because of Fred Warner. Kind of take away a lot of those 26-yard completions to Juju Smith-Schuster just over the middle. Juju's going to take one hit and be like, oh, fuck. Kelsey is washed, so he should be able to cover him like it's nothing. Yeah, honestly, this game is just really weird outcome. Cardinals shouldn't have probably been able to claw back. Kyler played good in the second half. I mean, that completion to Marvin Harrison, back foot, fadeaway. This shows how in tune they are
Yep.
already, and the connection is a lot better than what Kyler had with D Hop.
Yep. And it was also
But
bad coverage, but yeah,
oh yeah,
100%.
it was bad coverage, 100%. But I mean, to find where your guy is and know where he's at the completion
Yeah.
with a scary guy that's twice your size in front of you.
Yeah. That's how you want
The
every
Niners,
quarterback receiver to play. Like,
yeah. When Max Crosby said that him and Devontae Adams are a package deal, he's not leaving without him. I thought that was so funny. But thinking about it more, the Niners have to be their chops at that idea. Um, I just if it even if it takes Brandon Ayuk, who they just paid, I'm doing it.
man,
If
that,
you
oh man. Imagine Max Crosby and Nick Bosa.
and then Devontae Adams on
Oh
offense,
my God. Like, that would, oh my God. It's not going to
that
happen, but
quarterbacks beware.
yeah, it's not happening, but one can dream about it.
Right. Um, to get into a completely different, not completely different, but a really weird matchup as well. Daniel Jones has no Malik Neighbors and goes out there and puts up 23. I say 23 because the Giants got 6 on a blocked field goal return for touchdown,
Yeah.
just to rub in the pain
Yeah.
for Seahawks fans.
Well, they would have tied the game and
Uh,
sent it to overtime.
right, but I'm saying even if he just missed it, that would have been fine too. But not to give up 6 more to the Giants.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel Jones is proving why he's still a starter in the league. I don't think he's a great upper end starter, but they're gonna ride out that contract. I mean, there's no reason not to at this point.
Yeah. Look, I'm about as loud of a critic as Daniel Jones as anybody else, and I think he's played pretty damn like solid football for the most part. It's obviously not top 16, or maybe it is actually top 16. Really, not a lot of great quarterback play
The
this
league.
year. Yeah, but look, I mean, he's been solid. He's been solid enough to win, and it's showing that. Like, they have been in games, even if they've lost. Realistically, they beat the Commanders in week 2 if they have a kicker, in my opinion. So, like, this is a frisky team that's going to be able to win games. The defense is very solid. I don't think anyone had concerns about at least the defensive front for sure. I mean, that is a nasty pass rush. Brian Burns and Thibodeau on the opposite end with Dexter Lawrence up the middle. That is gross, dude. They're going to cause problems. Um,
Yeah, especially if they can continue to find unique coverages for it. They should get a
yeah,
lot of turnovers this year.
yeah, absolutely. So, look, credit to Daniel Jones, credit to Brian Daboll on the offense, because I think they are doing it with quite a bit of subpar talent. I'm excited for Tyrone Tracy to get the ball more. I think he proved that he should be getting the ball more with Singletary out last week and him kind of going off.
Mhm.
I think Tracy's going to be one of the more underrated backs out of this 24 class. So I'm excited to see him get the ball more. I think he can be a star, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then
Alrighty.
wrapping up
Yeah,
this week's recap, we have the Packers hanging on against the Rams. Uh, I don't know if either team really wanted to win this game.
didn't seem like it.
Yeah. Uh, Jordan Love doing his best Will Levis impression uh, in the end
Hey, we
zone.
had somebody. Had to have somebody.
Yeah, yeah. And look, I get like that is just a fucking awful play by Love, but that is also an awful play call in that spot, in my opinion. I don't get why like more people need to be talking about how bad the play calling is. I feel like there are a few people in the community, but we might be the only ones really like that are consistently talking about how important play calling is, how important coaching is, and like just design a designed rollout out of gun at your own 2 yard line. That's just fucking stupid. That is just so stupid. You are setting him up to fail, and he failed. He failed masterfully. I just don't get it. That was really brutal, and it looked like the Rams were again going to win another shocker against what should be a significantly better team, but the Packers did. They clutched up. They knew that they should be winning this game. Tucker Kraft, how about him? He's the tight end one there for sure now. And he's been very, very good. So
Yeah. I there's not much to say. I mean, Tucker Craft is taking over the spot. Luke Musgrave in 1 year has become the disappointment of that class for me. I was way higher on him than Tucker Craft, and for some reason they just Kirk Cousins, the RG3 of that team.
I liked them both, to be fair. I thought they would run a lot of 12 or 22 with them, but they haven't really
I,
done that. So,
they've just they haven't really needed to. I mean,
right.
no matter who has been guarding Craft, he's just getting open.
Yeah.
So shout out to him. Great value late round pick.
It might be a similar thing that we see with Tanner McLaughlin and Eric All. Um, not this season in particular, but in the future with the Bengals. I feel like, one of them will just stick out a lot more. In my opinion, I think it'll be Eric All, but we'll see what happens.
It should be Eric All, and they shouldn't be putting Mike Gesicki as a starter, but it is what it is.
But I mean, Gesicki and Tanner Hudson ahead of your two rookies, I just don't get it. Make it make sense.
Hudson should have been cut the second that he had that fumble. Hudson shouldn't be on the NFL roster after doing that.
Yeah.
You don't get a second chance, buddy. Your name is Tanner Hudson. You're not an OJ Howard. You don't have a cool name. You aren't a high draft pick. You don't get to fuck up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Packers Rams boring ass game. Packers won. Yippee.
Yeah. All true statements, all facts. All right.
Disappointment not of the draft, but disappointment of the year so far is Matt LaFleur's ability to use Josh Jacobs. You go and invest that money into him and cut Aaron Jones and make a big decision in the offseason, and then you use him like he's fucking God damn it. Use him like he's a Mark Ingram.
Yeah, you're right about that. And Jacobs has been good when he's gotten the ball too. He had a slow game in week 1 in Brazil. So like,
and then popped off for
okay.
70 in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, he's been good, and I feel like it just feels like in general right now there's too much emphasis on forcing your quarterback to win the game for you when you don't need to. Like it's not that the Packers didn't really have a big lead at any point in this game. They won by 5, but it came down to like the game wouldn't have been this close if Jordan Love wasn't terrible. Like, you know what I mean? I can't believe how bad he is this year. And it's not that he's incapable of making plays or anything like that. And it's not that he's incapable of getting a lot better like he did last season down the stretch as well. But this is just a brutal start in my opinion.
I think it's a total misuse of talent. And I'm not blaming this all on Matt LaFleur. Love hasn't earned himself any favors by any means. But Matt LaFleur in the offseason spent all this time thinking, oh my God, I have big googly eyes looking at Jordan Love and all the talent that this man has. And he can't get the fucking image of him being the MVP of the league out of his mind. And so he keeps putting these play calls. He's like, doesn't make sense to run this. No. Have we set it up? No. But Jordan's going to make the play.
Mm-hmm.
And he's putting too much faith in that, and he's not running the basics to set up those great plays.
Yeah.
It's way too much of, we can run 4 verts 3 times in one series, even if we only run it 1 time, even if we only run the ball 1 time, because Jordan Love's going to make the play. It's just malpractice. And I'm not saying he actually called 4 verts 3 times. It's just an example of the not
your
low level of play calling, but yeah, it's
yeah, you're kind of sacrificing the system for faith in a way.
Yeah, it's very poor sequencing. That's how I want to put it.
And that's actually similarly how I've viewed the 49ers offensive play calling against the Cardinals this week as well. A lot less system and a lot more faith. I at this point I don't understand. Oh, never mind. I'm not going to get into it. That's going to be another rant. But yeah, honestly, a fairly straightforward week. There are a couple nasty upsets and whatnot, but again, I finally had a pretty good week of pick'ems, so I'm happy about that. But I went 9-5 or 8-6. I don't remember, but one of those two.
Hey, positive is a highlight this year, dude.
Yeah.
Any given Sunday has become every given Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the we can now we talked about these teams quite a bit in the recap, so we could probably just run through these fairly quickly. The
Yeah.
Titans coming off a bye at home against the Colts. The Titans still look like ass. The Colts look marginally better, or not marginally, significantly better with Joe Flacco quarterback. So if Flacco is the starter, I'm taking the Colts. If Richardson's the starter, I need to think about this more.
I'm taking Titans regardless. I think
Okay.
their defense is still pretty solid. I saw a Titans reporter talk about the Titans on a short. I can't remember what it was, but he was talking about them. He's like, if you take away Will Levis and the punt team, this is a top 10 team in the NFL. I was like, damn, they really traded away Malik Willis for nothing. And then Malik Willis went out there and won more games than they won the year. Anyways, uh,
Yeah.
I got the Titans winning this one. I think Will Levis maybe can turn it around against a really shit defense.
Yeah.
Fucking-
Possible.
I put a lot of faith into the Titans receivers this year, so got my fingers crossed.
Hey man, look, I was shitting on Calvin Ridley all last season. I thought he was pretty bad actually. Then he got that contract. Hopkins is just not getting involved at all, which is really bizarre to me. I think he's still a very quality target.
Might be tuning out.
Let's say it one more time.
He might be like tuning out of the season. Knows he's on a not great team.
Maybe, I don't know. He's certainly a trade candidate by the deadline. So I'd be interested or intrigued at least to see where he might go if he goes. I think he probably does. A lot of people buzzing about Devontae Adams. I think Hopkins might be more likely to go. Actually, we'll see. Yeah. As far as the Colts pick, look, they look significantly better in my opinion with Joe Flacco than Anthony Richardson. Not that I'm surprised by that by any means. So there's a little bit of faith in that. One thing that I didn't mention during the recap, though, that I just want to get in briefly is the offense actually uses more skill position players with Joe Flacco in the game than with Anthony Richardson. I mean, have you seen how night and day the difference is with Josh Downs' production between Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco at quarterback? The two games that Joe Flacco's been at quarterback, he didn't start the first game, but I mean, he is actually getting targets. He's getting touches. He's getting catches. He's been very productive and been kind of the receiver that you want him to be in this offense, a really solid two. So I hope that continues regardless of who's at quarterback, because I think he's a stud player. He just needs to get the reps.
It's so fucking weird the turnaround that Joe Flacco has had, by the way. I don't think that gets talked about enough. He's like a league average quarterback now.
Yeah.
After sitting on the couch for 2 years.
Yeah, sitting on the couch for 2 years and at the end of his career kind of not being good, really. Team kind of winning in spite of him. At least I felt a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it is really bizarre. But I think, again, it speaks to how important right now, in particular. Now, again, coaching's always been a paramount of importance in the league, but I think nobody's talking about it anymore, how important coaching is. And week by week, we see like the better coach is winning football games 85% of the time. I guarantee you, if you look at the numbers over the past 5 years, the better coach wins 85% of the time.
Honestly, if I was looking at it from just a coacher's perspective, I'd probably have better picks. Because I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at Saints versus Chiefs, Andy Reid at home versus Dennis Allen on the road. Who the fuck are you picking?
Well, let's
Not
just
Dennis Allen.
okay. Let's go through it. Let's say I went 8-6. Okay, be a
Okay.
little harsh on my picks, but let's look each game from last week. Who's the better coach, D'Amico Ryans or Sean McDermott?
D'Amico Ryans.
Okay, D'Amico Ryans. They won. Doug Peterson or Shane Steichen?
Probably Shane Steichen.
Shane Steichen. Okay, 1-1. That's a wash. John Harbaugh or Zach Taylor? John Harbaugh.
John Harbaugh.
Okay, 2-1. Mike McDaniel or Gerard Mayo? Mike McDaniel. 3-1. Antonio Pierce or Sean Payton? This is a tough one.
Sean Payton, dude.
But yes, exactly. 4-1 now, okay? Kevin O'Connell or redacted Robert Saleh? Kevin O'Connell.
Kevin O'Connell.
Obviously. Kevin Stefanski or Dan Quinn? Dan Quinn. Right?
Dan Quinn.
I mean, we have one loss already, and we're halfway through the week, okay? Mike McCarthy or Mike Tomlin? Mike Tomlin,
Mike
probably.
Tomlin.
Yeah, so that's your second loss, all right? Dennis Allen or Andy Reid? Andy Reid, okay? Todd Bowles or Raheem Morris? I'm actually not sure about that
Todd
one.
Bowles. I'm going Todd Bowles.
Okay, I guess for me the reason don't know is because we just haven't seen a lot of Raheem Morris yet, whereas Todd Bowles has been both good and bad.
True.
So yeah, we'll just call that a loss just to make it seem a little bit more interesting. So 3 losses. This one's another tough one, but Dave Canales or Matt Eberflus? I'm going Canales as well. So 4 losses. Gannon or Shanahan? Shanahan, but Gannon won, so 5 losses.
Yeah.
Dayball or McDonald? I think similar one to the Falcons for me. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough.
I'm probably going Dabble.
I haven't seen enough from McDonald yet, so I'll go Dayball as well. And then another tough one, though, Matt LaFleur versus Sean McVay. I probably lean Sean McVay. So there you go. Just in that exercise, we would have gone 8-6 on the pick'ems. The exact same thing that I had last week. The exact same result.
God.
And there are probably weeks where it's better than that too, you know? Like that might have been a week. That might have been a bad week for the coaching advantage. I don't know.
It could have been, man. It could have been.
We should that for the rest of the season. We should be looking at that every recap. We should keep that in mind and review.
I'm down.
All right. Houston against the New England Patriots. Up next on our docket here. Look, the Texans are just
win.
Yeah. Now the question is whether they'll actually put the game away as well. Keep that in mind.
I think Drake May does bring up a question because there's no film on him, but I also think the Texans just played a very similar quarterback. Josh Allen playstyle wise is very similar to Drake May. So I think they should be able to take care of business and win this pretty easily.
They should be able to win. There is maybe a little bit of a trap game vibe to it, but the Texans are just so much better on both sides of the ball. Now, again, the trap game side of it as well is about the fact that Houston can't put away games. If New England somehow manages to hang around here, I wouldn't be shocked if they get a late score and win this game, and just really surprise everybody. And then make the decision to sit Drake May to start the year even worse. Because then you definitely win games like Miami, and you still win against Cincinnati,
Yeah, and it's not particularly close, dude. It's just a net improvement in pretty much every facet.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Pittsburgh at Las Vegas. Another
this
shit
is the
fest.
Game where Antonio Pierce gets fired, I think.
Could be. Yeah.
Wait, is this his first year as head coach?
First full
It
year,
is, right?
yes. He was interim last season.
Is he going to set the record for fastest fire?
I don't know. We'll see. Again, I think he should at the very least at the end of the season. I don't think he's a good fit. I think the magic again, the honeymoon phase of interim coaches, kind of lighting a fire under the bellies of their teams. I don't buy into it at all. And I feel like this team had an opportunity to get a guy like Jim Harbaugh in the building, and they decided to opt for the interim guy. It's so okay, sorry, I hate to interrupt, but it's so fucking annoying that they did this with Antonio Pierce, but they didn't do it with Rich Bisaccia, who had a way better interim head coach position. He actually took them to the playoffs. He almost upset the team that would go to the Super Bowl. Yeah.
And he just had a much better result as an interim coach. Antonio Pierce, don't get me wrong, he didn't look bad, but if you're gonna go and do that and have your interim thing, and then you go and replace the quarterback who was with you during that with another middling starter, and Gardner Minshew is not bad, but he is very clearly a backup in this league, and you have Aiden, young player who may be a starter. I just don't understand why you would take him out of that position. No, probably going to put him back in that position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it made no sense to me.
None of it makes sense. He could, especially if they lose it in like an embarrassing fashion. I don't think that happens though, but he could very well get fired after this game or halfway through the season, or certainly at the end of the season. I think is very likely at this point. But yeah, I'm leaning Steelers right now just because they should win this game. Like it probably a low score, probably not a lot of points put up on the board, but I think that their defense makes the extra stop with TJ Watt, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. This is battle of defensive player of the years and terrible offenses. Also, if Russell Wilson starts, they win pretty easily.
Yeah, probably. I probably agree. But he could have some rest in his first game too, you know. Danger rust. Um but yeah. All right. No need to harp on that one any further. Next up, the Broncos hosting the Los Angeles Chargers, who are coming off of a bye, which is positive for them. You know, I usually don't like buys that are in week 5 and super early, but for a team that's been super beat up, this is nice. I don't know who all is going to return, but they'll at least get in some better shape for this game. But I still look, the Broncos are playing really good, really solid football right now on both sides of the ball. I think they're going to be a really tough out for the rest of the season. I think they're going to be really frisky. And so I don't see any real reason, in my opinion, to think that that's going to stop now this week.
That's entirely valid, and I think this is going to be a really close game. I don't know who to pick. It's a coin flip for me, so I'm going to go ahead and do the funny thing here and take the better head coach. Give me the Chargers.
Fair enough.
And then on the next docket, this is the second time I'm going to say this. The Bills are going to win in dominating fashion. I was right last time. I'm going to be right again. I've seen the future, and the future is Aaron Rodgers, another 3-interception game with a defensive touchdown, and Josh Allen has a masterclass against a team that no longer has a really good defensive head coach.
Yeah, that's a good point. So you don't think that at all there's this interim honeymoon period for the Jets?
No, because it's Aaron Rodgers who's the new head coach. I think this is this is going to be something that needs to be documented of a player having so much control. The Benchwarmer brand video that was made on this, I don't want to make stupid claims and say, "Oh, of course he's right." Like Rodgers wanted to fire him, but they couldn't put Hackett in as head coach because it would look too bad publicly. I genuinely think that's a pretty likely scenario because of how intertwined they are with Aaron Rodgers right now, which is just you can't do that. You can't mix player and GM.
Well, did you see that report? That
they fucking
the inciting
out.
And the inciting incident that caused the firing was the day before. Apparently, he was made an announcement that he was switching play calling duties from Nathaniel Hackett to someone else on the offensive staff, and then he gets fired the next day. Did you hear about that?
I did.
That's fucking crazy. Oh. That is crazy, man. We are in it. This is a fantasy land. It's wild. This Aaron Rod, I don't understand. How does he like Hackett anyway? How? This is a horrible play caller. He runs a horrible offense. It's so boring to watch, and it's so easy to predict what's going to happen. That's why they aren't productive.
Having games with 6 carries and 5 yards.
Yes.
How?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's fucking pathetic. It's fucking pathetic.
Garrett Wilson needs to get out of there and go to the Saints.
At this point, mass exodus on every star player. I mean, Breece Hall doesn't deserve this. Garrett Wilson doesn't deserve this, although he hasn't been great this year. But still, he doesn't deserve this. Fucking name your guys on the defense that don't deserve this. You know,
Breece Hall should go to the Chiefs. I mean, he grew up in Kansas.
Oh my God, that would just crown them the Super Bowl champs now. Holy shit, man! But yeah, what a train wreck of an organization for decades now. What a train wreck of a season so far. Now it's not over or anything like that. They can certainly somehow gather momentum. Maybe they all go on an ayahuasca retreat during their bye. I don't know, but the Bills should win this game. I would be shocked, honestly, if the Jets won.
I wholeheartedly agree. Next up, we have a pretty entertaining shootout.
This is the toughest.
Goddamn morning.
This is the toughest game to pick for me
because you know it's going to be a shootout. We know both of these teams are going to score. Who's going to score last?
But the other caveat is that it's London.
And it's the Jags.
Jacksonville plays in London even when they're not the home team. Make it make sense.
Yeah, it needs to count as a home game. The fact that it doesn't is stupid.
Yeah.
Um,
Now the Bears
but
have the
yeah,
longest active streak of undefeated at home. Now they're not at home, but they are going to be wearing the home threads. So
yeah. This is a game where there's a lot of storylines going into it. Battle of generational quarterbacks. You have Caleb Williams versus Trevor Lawrence. Honestly, I think this is going to be a game where both of them show why they are who they are and why they should be drafted as high as
hopefully,
they were.
hopefully,
Because both these defenses just aren't good. Um,
I
they
think the
shut
Bears
down the
defense is
Panther.
pretty good.
It shut down the Panthers.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know, but they've also done pretty solid jobs, I think, against most other teams.
that's fair. I just don't see them being able to cover for too long, especially with who's out, the safety,
Brisker,
Jaquan Brisker.
yeah.
Yeah, with Brisker out, it's gonna be hard. Their D line isn't good. Gervin Dexter was not the pick to make there. Um, Also weird behavior to get a punter so high up, but um, I still think the Panthers are gonna edge this out. I think Caleb Williams' ability to is gonna extend plays on third down and get them the extra first down that they need with a win this week.
Yeah. I have a slight edge to the Bears as well right now, but this could change on the drop of a hat for me, honestly. Really, this is the toughest game for me to predict this week. I don't know. I don't know what yours is if we haven't got to it yet or whatnot, but man, I truly a toss up for me. And it's weird saying that
Yeah.
when the Jaguars are 1-4, but it feels like a toss up.
See, you say that, but actually, this next game we have is the toughest game for me to pick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have a brief talk about it because I don't think so really at all. And there's one reason why. The Baltimore Ravens again, or Lamar Jackson in particular, against NFC opponents, has lost maybe once, I think, in his entire career, once or twice. Like he has just an unbelievable record, and the Ravens do for that matter, since that time, have an unbelievable record against NFC opponents. And it just feels like every time they play an NFC team, it's usually a blowout. Earlier this year against the Cowboys in week 3, the Cowboys were able to find their way back into the game at the end to make it interesting, but the Ravens were up like 28-7, like immediately. It felt like, so that's why it's not too tough for me. Now, Washington could be one of those rule breakers in a way because they've been fantastic as well. And so I'm hoping for a great game, but I just don't know if I can really see it right now.
Oh my god. Funniest stat. They're 21-3 against the NFC coming Panthers and Giants.
Okay, so yeah, there you go. 3 losses. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think that Jaden Daniels is gonna ball out again. He's on a hype train that's hard to hop off of right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and ride it here. I think that Dan Quinn is gonna have a good defensive plan teamed up. Whether his players are gonna execute the best is entirely on what they can do with their own talent. But I think he's gonna put them in the position to succeed, which is already saying a lot because this offense they're going against is hard to be in a position to succeed.
Yeah.
But I think this will be a really fun game, high quality for both sides of the ball for both teams. Give me the Washington Commanders 28-26.
Okay. Yeah. I hope it's a really great game as well. I just, again, I have that worry, where this has been a thing, for years now. So we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for a great game. If Washington wins, I think it's a shootout.
Yeah. Eagles win. Fuck the Browns. Not much to say here.
Yeah, fuck the Browns. They are absolutely dog shit. The Eagles are not very good right now either, but they're getting healthy, especially this week. Both of their receivers, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, are back, so that's going to help Jalen Hurts at least look more like Jalen Hurts, I guess. So that's good for them. They can right the ship now mid-season, so I think this will be a fairly solid win at home, again off the bye.
Yeah. Next, we got Bengals going to New York to face the Giants. I'm
Sunday Night
saying this
Football.
now. Oh, okay. Sunday Night Football. If the Bengals lose this game, I'm personally firing Zach Taylor. Relieve his duties after the game. He needs to go to the post game media press conference, but then that's where we'll announce his firing. So a lot on the table here for the Bengals. I don't think they'll lose. Joe Burrow needs to continue to play the level he has to keep winning games because he's the only thing them from losing everything this year. I feel like Jamar Chase is going to continue to be a Higgins probably going to continue to doesn't care about football, I guess. Um, Malik Neighbors is also coming back, so I could see this game being pretty high scoring here. I
Yeah.
I think I have Bengals like 30 to 25, 30 to 26.
Honestly, oh man, it's so this just feels to me like a Giants win, but I can't pick them at the moment. Maybe I switch because they're playing really good football right now. And they're able to move the ball in offense. This Bengals defense has been awful this year, especially against quarterbacks who can run with the ball. Daniel Jones is fairly mobile. A lot of people don't know that for some reason, but that was one of his big traits coming out of college, even though he was still severely overdrafted. But like this is
Only
kind
by
of
3 rounds.
yeah, yeah. This is kind of a recipe though for a Bengals loss here, in my opinion. Now, I still have them picked at the moment, and I still think that this should be a close game, unless something catastrophic happens, really. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more I feel like the separating factor here is either going to be Jamar Chase for the Bengals, right? He just takes over the game in the receiving game completely, or it's going to be the fact that the Giants have a really, really great defensive front that has done a fantastic job of getting to the quarterback. And this is an offensive line that is neither good nor healthy right now. You know, they're a little depleted. So I have that big concern too, and I think that could be the difference at the end of the day, really.
OBJ is out, right?
Yes, yeah. No, Trent Brown is out. Actually, I think it's Trent Brown. They could be both out, honestly.
Either way, that's a rough
Yeah.
situation because I know OBJ has been battling injury in the offseason.
Yeah.
So
that's
Burrow needs to survive. That's all.
That's a great question. You know what I mean? That is a question worth asking about this Giants defensive front that has been fantastic all year. This is this is a good test, I think, for both sides of the ball, for both teams rather.
Absolutely, 100%. This is going to be a game that separates the men from the boys.
Yeah.
And the weirdest game of the week, I'm picking the Niners, so that way they can lose again as my most common pick of the week, because I really think they do win this game. I'm fairly certain they are. But for some fucking reason, they're 0-3 when I make them my most. So,
yeah, man.
Niners prove me wrong here.
I'm
By proving
expecting
me right.
I'm expecting a close game in this one. I'm gonna lean my Niners, obviously. You know, maybe a slight bias in the pick there, but Seahawks are certainly capable of winning this game. I guess the reasons that I am not confident about this one at all are the ways that these games have gone over the past few years. They're going to be different this year. So Mike McDonald's defensive scheme in the secondary in particular is one that Brock really struggled against playing against the Ravens last year. So maybe I don't know how much of a carryover that'll be, but Tariq Woolen's also out for this game, as well as a few players on the defensive line. So maybe it's not exactly the same, but I have concerns about that. I have questions about receivers being able to get separation and whatnot. But if they lean on the run that they should have against the Cardinals last week, I think they can certainly win this game. The other thing, though, is on the other side of the ball. In years past, the 49ers have been able to make Geno Smith very uncomfortable and generate a lot of pressure against this offensive line. Now, the offensive line of the Seahawks is not good, and the Giants created a ton of pressure last week. Sacked Geno, 6 times, I think? But the 49ers, on the other hand, have not been able to generate really any pressure. The only time that they've had a really, really strong defensive game on the pass rushing aspect was against the Patriots, and that, maybe it's a similar state of the offensive line here where it's not a good line at all and they can generate more pressure, but That's another concern that I have, the ability to create pressure. They haven't been able to do that outside of Nick Bosa, really. So,
I we need to see more from the Niners. This is their opportunity to show us.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
in another really hard game to pick, I think I know we're both picking the Packers here, but this is absolutely a coin. It just depends on which offense shows up because this can either be a really close, can edge it out, or it can be a really dominant win for the Packers if they decide to use the running more.
Yeah. I think it really is dependent on both sides. Which offense shows up on both sides. Because if Jordan Love is even pedestrian at quarterback this week, I think that they win the game. If they actually run the ball, I think that they win the game. If Kyler Murray plays out of his mind like he has a couple times this year already, they probably win this game. So really interesting one, but I do lean Packers right now.
This is a game that, oddly enough, has the potential to either be the game of the week or the stinker of the week. They both are very possible because of how wishy-washy and bipolar their quarterbacks are.
Yeah, I could see it.
I'm picking the Saints. I have to. I'm a Saints fan. I said I would. Yeah, this is not it, dude.
Yeah, look. It's a divisional opponent against the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers are on extra rest, and they have looked fantastic, really, for the most part this year, outside of the Broncos game. So I think this is going to be probably a tough one, another tough one for the Saints. But we'll see. Again, divisional opponent. The Saints have played well against the Bucs in years past, so we'll see what happens. But I'm leaning Bucs.
And this is another thing, real quick, because we haven't talked about this yet. The Saints confirmed starting Spencer Rattler,
Even though he hasn't been active for a single fucking game this year, and Jake second on the depth chart the entire year, we're starting Rattler. I think the only reason why they're doing that is because they have to have a different offense in mind for Rattler than what they have in mind than what Hayner and Derek Carr are.
Yeah.
That's the only way that it makes sense for me because they need a week to install Rattler's system. But if they're installing a system for Rattler, I'm deeply concerned because Rattler doesn't do the West Coast play action, and he doesn't do the under center handing the ball, which can either be really good because we can either get the ball out quicker, or he's going to hold on to the ball and get sacked 100 times. And quite frankly, I don't see either of those working. So hopefully he shows flashes. Hopefully he looks somewhat. I just need hope. God damn it. Cowboys are gonna upset the Lions this week.
Ooh, interesting pick.
Lions have looked pedestrian pretty much all season, outside of their game against the Seahawks. Jared Goff is mediocre to say the least. I don't know if Micah or D-Law are going to be back, but if either of them are back, then I think this is a shoe-in for the Cowboys, to be honest.
Wow. That's very bold of you, because I honestly, this might be one of the more confident picks I have of the week. I think Lions coming off of a bye, getting extra rest. I think the Cowboys have looked not good, very mediocre the past few weeks. Now, last week they did have the injuries like you mentioned. But I don't know. I don't really believe that the Cowboys are going to be able to move the ball on the Lions without a rushing attack. They really don't have one at all. So, I mean, we'll see, but yeah, I feel pretty confident in my Lions pick here.
Hey, that'll make it all the more fun to do the recap next week.
Yeah. I told you so. No, I told you so.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up, you bitch. You picked a favorite. Something like that.
Yeah.
Look, if it's an entertaining game, that's fantastic. I love entertaining football, but I don't know. I don't see it really. All right, final game for this preview here.
I swear to God, if the Panthers win this game, I know nothing about football if the Panthers win this game.
Luckily, there's no way that they do. This is Kirk Cousins coming off of the best game of his career. Played against this defense. I mean,
Was
I
it
would.
Gigabyte that was like, when was the last time Kirk Cousins threw for 500 yards?
Yeah, and then I'm like, never. Like he's
Like what?
he's actually thrown for 400 quite a bit. I was surprised by that, but it was only like 7 or 8 times at the same time. And like a 12-year career, that's I guess not a bit, but by today's standards,
But-
for 400 yards 7 or 8 times is quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That
500,
was just so
never, not
funny,
even
dude.
close. And I saw people on Twitter too. It was like people were like, it took him almost throwing for 600 yards. I'm like, 600? He threw for
Yeah, no,
509, not 599. Like, what are we talking about? Almost
He threw for
600.
509, and 40 of that 509 came on 5 missed tackles from the Bucks offense in overtime. Like he never was close to breaking the passing yards single game. Like
Yeah.
he just wasn't up to 570. He wasn't close to getting it too.
Yeah.
Like what?
So that was pretty funny. Those overreactions were quite hilarious in my opinion. But yeah, there is. You play this game 100 times, the Panthers win 6 of them, maybe, and that might be
That's
generous.
generous.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't see it happening. Extra rest as well for the Falcons. Not that matters too much from Thursday to Sunday, but
It really doesn't, especially when you're preparing for a team that's a fucking can of Campbell's Chunky.
yeah. All right. Well, that is our Week 6 preview. Now we're just gonna spend a little bit of time here, do a check-in. We did a check-in of all the teams, and put them in tiers last week, and this week we wanted to do a little check-in on the head coaches. We've talked a lot about head coaching this episode, and it's no surprise. We're kind of getting our brains a little acclimated to it in a way, but here we are, head coaching tier list, and we're ranking them by how hot their seat is. So
Yeah, surprisingly a lot to say so early in the season.
yeah.
Andy Reid totally secured. Like
Oh, yeah,
easiest shit.
So the
sorry.
tiers before we get started, at the bottom here we have totally secure, which basically there's no way you get fired. Like it is a 0% chance you get fired this season, probably even next season, probably the season after. Like these are the safest jobs in the NFL. Then pretty safe, you have like it would take a miracle. Like you would have to come out as like a rapist or something to get fired,
Yeah, you
this season.
a Ben Roethlisberger career arc.
Yeah. So you'd have to do something really, really bad to get fired. And then you have warm seat, which is like, if things start going wrong, then yeah, I could see it in a way. And then hot seat is like, you better get things right, otherwise you're done. There's no second chance here. And then fired, we'll throw Saleh in there already because he's already fired. But I do want to talk about it a little bit at the same time.
I think that there should be other people in that list.
Yes, and so we're not just going to put Saleh in there just because was fired. I want to put people in there that we expect, like we would be shocked if they have their jobs next season. I think is the criteria for this one.
Absolutely. I love this.
So real quick, the Robert Saleh thing. We kind of talked about it a
go
little bit
for it.
already, but I don't think he's a good head coach. Let's start with that. I don't think he's a good head coach. I think he is a great defensive coordinator and a defensive mind. I think, with the exception of the Jets this season, I guess, I think that every single one of his defenses has always played like really, really great. And his ability to find talent, especially on the defensive line, I think has been fantastic. Dating back to the Niners days as well. With that, I mean, that defensive front had guys like Samson Ebukam, who hasn't done much for the Colts since leaving the Niners, but he was balling out, on this defensive line of the 49ers. So I think he's a great defensive mind. I think when he decided, he said he's not going to take any jobs right now, which is smart anyway. You don't want to install a new scheme on a team in one fucking week. That would be fucking stupid. It's just stupid. Anyone suggesting that doesn't know football. Like stop
There's
commenting.
only 2 teams that he could even go to midseason and it would make sense, and that's the Texans and Niners, and they don't need it right now.
Yeah. It's just, look, I've been critical of Sorensen and Staley as the Niners co-defensive coordinators, but they have not done a fireable job yet. I mean, come on. So, again, the 49ers fan base isn't like so many overreactions, but
This
yeah,
isn't a Steve Wilkes in the Super Bowl moment, dude.
right. But yeah, look, so Saleh will get a defensive coordinator job and probably be heralded as another, next season, probably being a great defensive coordinator again, great defensive mind. People think of him positively once again. But I think also
It's
he was not only handed a shitty situation, but it just got so much out of his own control by the GM, by the entire rest of the front office, by Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, who has more power than Robert Saleh has ever had. So at the same time, I think he was given such a shitty hand, and he maybe didn't play it the best either. But I struggle to not feel bad for him by any means.
honestly, I feel like if you're Quinn and Williams, you immediately request a trade here because you signed this big contract for multiple years, expecting to have a really good defensive mind with you, and then a year later is just fired because of let's be honest, a well past prime quarterback that shouldn't really be getting that much power, especially because he's gone after a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Quentin Williams has to be like out of it with this team because it's such unserious like levels of management.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Get him on the other New York team so we can see the greatest defensive.
Yeah. Imagine, dude. Oh my God, that would be unreal. But
Have him pull a Leonard Williams.
yeah, holy shit. Uh, all right. Well, I think that's enough. We talked about it earlier when we were talking about the Jets as well. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, Andy Reid totally secure. I don't think we need to say anything else about that.
I don't either.
Antonio Pierce, are we
Antonio
putting him in
Pierce
fired?
fired.
Yeah.
Fired.
Okay, and we talked about that as well.
Fired him already.
Yeah, just a total lack of confidence in him, in my opinion. This is Brian
Yeah.
Callahan. He's not going to get fired after 1 year. So
Hot seat.
You really think so?
Sorry, hot seat's dramatic because Levis is just that big of a failure. I'd say warm seat though. I mean, the pure ineptness of this offense, especially with Bill Callahan coaching the offensive line, is a massive concern
Sure.
because we know how good that offensive line should be. I mean, it's not great on paper, but it has talent. And then you have Bill Callahan to the mix, who, by the way, the Browns O line looks league worst almost with pretty much the exact same guys that it was league best with.
Yeah.
Just because Bill Callahan's gone. Like at some point, you're hand gifted a great situation and you're not producing anything with it. I get it's your first time being a head coach, but I'm already skeptical.
That's all fair points. All fair points. Yeah, I definitely would disagree with hot seat. Warm seat, I'm okay with. I was gonna say pretty safe though, because I think it would take a lot more to go wrong for him to get fired after 1 year.
I would say that. And
Yeah.
so if we're going off criteria that he's not going to get fired this year, I'd say pretty.
Okay. All right. Well, and we can
which is
always
actually-
revisit these two and reorder
Yeah.
them, but
Which is actually the same tier I would have Brian Dabble in.
pretty safe.
Yeah. I don't see a world where he should be fired, man.
Look,
I don't think
when
that
he's
bad of a
had
coach.
when he's had a healthy starting offensive unit, they've been pretty solid. So I'll give him that credit. I think there are some
Also,
times when
the
he
Bills offense without him.
yeah, right. I think there are some times where he kind of comes off as like a deer in headlights, but I mean, name a coach who doesn't, I guess, outside of Andy Reid, maybe. You know what I mean? Like the best of the best are the ones who don't look like a deer in headlights. Sometimes he does that.
Yeah.
And this isn't ranking head coaches; it's ranking head coaches based on their seats. So I don't think he's going to get fired at any point either this season. So
Right. We're looking at Sean McVay, totally secure.
This is Dan Campbell.
Oh, sorry. I'm pretty far away from my computer. Sean McVay is way far down the list. Yeah, still totally secure. I mean,
Yeah.
you would have to miss playoffs for him to lose his job, and they would have to like finish fourth in the division.
Yeah, it would take missing playoffs. It would take looking really bad the rest of the way, and fourth place. And yeah, I would. There's no chance. I don't think, even if they look bad.
Yeah. Is that Dan Quinn?
Yes, it is.
So I don't want to say totally secure yet. 'Cause with the way this team looks, it's almost to that level.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And
think
look,
if they win 3 more games, then he's totally secure. You're not firing him after that.
yeah, probably right. And look, this is a guy who's been pretty esteemed in the NFL field and in the coaching sphere in general. Everyone knows, everyone knows, if you know NFL and know coaching, you know Dan Quinn because he's just been around for a long time. He's been a productive head coach in the past with Atlanta. Now, it didn't look so great by the end of it, but he did coach a team to a Super Bowl before. And he's coached some very good defenses. And look at the the difference in Dallas's defense from him to Mike Zimmer. It's just a total mismatch, you know.
It absolutely
And
is.
I think he's done a really good job. I also really liked, I loved, and I'm telling you, like I said all offseason, this is going to be a sneaky team. Like maybe not playoff level, but this is going to be a tough out every week, regardless of who they like. But they made some incredible offseason moves, in my opinion, that were just so great. Frankie Louvu coming in, also Jeremy Chin coming in, another former Panther, Bobby
Austin
Wagner on a cheap
Eckler,
deal. Eckler, even though I don't like Eckler, I think is good as a
he's a
RB2
perfect
role.
compliment. He's a perfect
Exactly.
compliment to Robinson.
Like this was just such a great first off season for this regime, and and again they're doing a really really good job coaching as well each week. So good on him.
He's also one of the few coordinators who, like, you think of a scheme. Oh, cover 3, cover 2, man. Like with Dennis Allen, with cover 2, man. Who do you think of? Dennis Allen, dude. With sorry, fuck.
Dan Quinn.
With, yeah, sorry. With Dan Quinn, when you think cover 3, you think Dan Quinn. Like he's that good at that scheme and executing it to that level that he is who you think of when you're thinking of a specific scheme.
Yeah.
But he's always going to put out a good defense, I think. And like you said with Mike Zimmer, it's a total bad fit. That shouldn't have been their hire.
Yeah. Right. All right. This is Dave Canales. It sucks.
Oh,
I think this is a warm seat one though.
I
Even if I
I
don't
can't
want
put this anywhere. I think this is totally secure, dude.
really. Okay.
You
Look
inherit
in
you
my
inherit somebody else's quarterback. The
yes
roster is terrible.
yes
There's no justification for firing.
I completely agree with you. But there is a feeling inside of me that it just, if this, if they are continue to be dog shit all season and let's say Bryce Young comes back in and he still sucks and whatnot, I feel like this is like, it irks me the way that the situation has been placed for him. But I would not be shocked if Tepper decides to blame him for all this. I wouldn't be shocked. That's why I
I
think
guess that's fair.
that's why I'm predicting warm seats. Like I said, I would not fire him by any means. Um, over the next 2 seasons, I'll even say that. But man, I have a bad feeling that could be what happens by the
Yeah.
end of the year. So
Unfortunate possibility.
right, D'Amico Ryan's totally secure.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen hot seat.
Opposite. No, fire, dude.
You think so?
He should have been fired last
Yeah,
offseason. Like,
yeah,
what are
you're
we
right.
doing here?
You're right. You're right.
This team hasn't improved on defense in 4 years. And I get it's been a really good defense, but you're regressing. This
Yeah,
team's defense looks worse than it did last
yeah,
year.
you're getting worse. Yeah.
There's no justification for keeping him.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. Doug Peterson, you're gone, buddy.
Yeah. Just I was a Doug Peterson defender for years, especially after he got fired by the Eagles. I thought that was stupid at the time. But man, he is not doing any of his supporters any favors. He just sucks. It's weird. It's really weird. He shouldn't suck, but he does. Jared
Yeah.
Mayo is the next one.
Fired.
Oh man, it's just
Up a tier too quick, but these guys need to be fired.
like
They're gone.
yeah, he should be. I just don't think he is though. I don't think he gets fired. I think he's warm seat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they've been planning him to be the inheritor, Bill Belichick, for too long. which is stupid.
Yeah.
But
Look, if you're cool with warm seat, I'm going to keep him there because I don't think he gets fired. And now, would I fire him? Probably, but
that's fine.
okay. Jim Harbaugh.
Totally secure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the guy that they wanted the entire offseason. They got him. This is going to be a
Bag.
this is going to be a multi-year project. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So totally
And
secure.
the offense has already turned around quite a bit. So
Yeah. John Harbaugh also totally secure.
yeah. Gannon, I'm gonna say pretty safe here.
I agree. Uh, I think it would take a lot to go really bad for him to get fired this offseason, but I think that there's, at least right now so far, there's too much that is going right sometimes for it to culminate in any sort of definite firing way. They beat a good team in the Niners last week, or we think is a good team in the Niners last week, and they're going to be frisky
Division
like that.
rival regardless.
Yeah, they're going to be frisky like that all season, and they blew out the Rams as well. So they're gonna win games like that. They're gonna be in the mix, I think. So
Also, the fact that he's putting out a competent defense with the talent that he has.
yeah,
No Darius Robinson, which hopefully he can come back soon because that's on the IL
yeah,
or IR for football. So I just don't see why they would. He's instilling a really good culture, and he's technically sound as far as defensive coaching.
yeah.
I don't see him going anywhere.
Completely agree. Kevin O'Connell's next, totally secure.
Yeah.
The
What a
Sam
coach
Darnold
he's been
turnaround
too.
in general. Yeah. Not only that, but acquiring other staff that is fantastic. Getting Brian Flores out of Pittsburgh and into Minnesota to be their defensive coordinator is just one of the smartest things ever. Really, I mean, it's worked wonders on a unit that. I thought the Minnesota Vikings defensive unit was a little underrated heading into the year. Not by any means special, but they are coached so well that they look great.
Brian Flores is making Harrison Smith the top 5 safety again at
Yeah.
like age 35.
Yeah.
It's honestly insane. This whole coaching staff is just assembled. I don't want to say perfect,
I mean,
but perfectly.
Dare I say this is the best staff in the NFL right now? Just out all around staff.
It's hard to take it away from the Chiefs.
I get that, but because it's Andy Reid and Spagnuolo, but also Matt Nagy's the coordinator on offense.
True, I didn't factor in Matt Nagy. Yeah, this has to be the best.
I mean, if it's not one, it's two.
Right. I'm trying to think of anybody that's even on par.
I don't think so. I don't
Again,
think there is
Cliff
one.
Kingsbury is really good, but they don't have the resume that the
Yeah.
Vikings do.
Yeah.
My question is, does Brian Flores get another shot at head coach? And if he does, how soon?
I don't know. If he does, I'd be surprised if it was this offseason, maybe. The problem is that what happened, the reason he was fired last time, and I think the reason he ended up getting blackballed in that next hiring window was because of that. And it shows, I don't know, it just doesn't bode well, I think, for a front office for him to be the head coach, at least right now.
I'm also curious to see where Mike Vrabel goes. Would love to see him in New Orleans. I think he'd be a good fit there.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. This one will be really interesting because we have a couple guys who were surprising fires last year for a lot of people who probably will be solid head coaches elsewhere that didn't get rehired, so.
Yeah. Kevin Stefanski is a weird one. All the talent in the world, super underperforming. He's hot seat because there's a high likelihood he gets fired. But I think the front office giving him Deshaun Watson and putting him in the mess that they did with the Baker Mayfield situation it's tragic because he was good. He was a damn good coach for the first 2 years he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And they just gave him the middle finger and said, fuck you, we're going to do our own thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, hot seat might be a little harsh, but it might be a little harsh. Yeah, I mean, I have him there, so. Shanahan, I mean, I don't understand people that are saying he's going to get fired or calling for him to get fired. It makes no sense to me. Does he get in his own head? Yes. Are the results sometimes shaky? Yes. But this is a head coach who, through his regime, through the course of 7 years with San Francisco, has turned this into a terrible bottom feeding team into a consistent contender and now has his quarterback of the future. There's just no way he gets fired. No way. No way. Maybe you think differently. I don't know.
No, this isn't totally safe. He would have to go last in the division, win 2 games again. Like, unless they lose out, he's not getting fired.
All right. Matt Eberflus is up next. Hot seat for sure.
Yeah.
You could make an argument for fired, but if they make the playoffs, for
The
example,
problem is they're
that's not going to
playing too
happen.
good for him to.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is going to be a situation where Caleb Williams is going to fuck himself over by being too good to your.
Yeah, maybe. All right. This is Matt LaFleur. I think this is totally secure.
Yeah, he's not getting fired, and if he does, it'd be a weird.
Yeah. Mike McDonald, pretty safe. Just like a lot of the other
Totally
rookie head
secure.
coaches. You think so?
There's no shot he gets fired.
Okay.
I don't think that team can perform to a level that's bad enough for him to get fired.
You're probably right. I guess there's to me there's like a 5% chance that, like, I don't know, the defense is just such a complete disaster the rest of the way. Again, I don't see it. So
I think Mike McDaniel is also totally secure, and my reasoning is he has a scapegoat.
I
Also-
would agree somewhat, but for some reason this one feels a little different. Because it's not just that's preventing the play. You know, like with Robert Saleh last year, like Aaron Rodgers was injured on 4 plays into the season, and you're like, oh, well, we're kind of fucking cooked now because Zach Wilson.
Yeah, you
we've
saw
tried
Tua play
and
bad.
failed, and Tua played bad, but also his play calling has been bad. His execution of, being a head coach has been bad. It's not just a personnel thing right now. I think it's a coaching thing too. So I would say at the very least it's warm seat, if not hot.
I can't justify hot seat. I don't think that he has such a good relationship with the players that I think they'll defend him enough to where he'll keep his job.
That's fair. At this, I will say though, at the same time, hot seat. We're not necessarily saying in hot seat that they'll get fired, but
Right.
warm seat's fine with me. Mike McCarthy, hot
Should be
seat,
fired. Should be fired.
maybe should be,
probably-
but hot seat for
Probably
sure.
hot seat.
If this team is not productive, or if they don't make the playoffs, I think he's gone.
If Jason Garrett can be a head coach for 11 years, Mike McCarthy can be a head coach for 6.
Oh man. Mike Tomlin up next. I mean, it feels like every year he's hot seat, but he just never gets fired. You know what I mean? So I don't know where to put him. He's kind of an enigma here.
I mean, okay, I don't think he's ever been hot seat because I don't think the Steelers have ever seriously considered firing him.
Right, but he should be. You know what I mean? But again, it's never happened. So
Depending on criteria, he qualifies for both the top and bottom tier. 'Cause
yeah.
he should be fired, but predicting he's not going to be.
Yeah. I'll put it in pretty safe just for that small percentage chance that, like, the way the way he handles the quarterback situation and whatnot is like so bad,
Yeah.
Just
Real quick, we need to add a punchable face tier.
that I'm good with this one. Yeah. This is great. Punchable face. Oop. All right. Yeah.
And then that's strictly for Sirianni.
Yeah. Oh shit. Okay, it's just at the bottom. All right, there we go. Punchable face. Yeah. Now, all jokes aside, certainly hot seat. Now, if they mix the playoffs, I think he's fired.
Yeah, this is a situation where they had a coordinator who was better than, and they got to the Super Bowl. So coordinator Lees gets a better job. At
Yep.
that point, you can't fire your head coach to keep Steichen or
Yeah.
Gannon, Both of them were better than Sirianni.
And honestly, I think this might actually legitimately be one that we could see mid-season. Depending on how the rest of the season goes. Like if Hurts really, really stinks still, even with the skill position players, and the defense isn't quite good either, I think this is a really, really good likelihood that he could get fired during the
Yeah.
season. This is Raheem Morris.
Pretty safe.
Yeah. And he's
This
done
team's going to continue to perform well, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
Likely outcome is he stays.
Yeah,
head
you
coach.
could argue he's been given a pretty solid situation. This team wasn't bad before he got there. And then
They also
go
they
ahead.
kept Arthur Smith for 3 years, so there's
Yeah.
a certain level of this team doesn't really fire coaches.
Yeah, that's true as well. And then yeah, so inheriting not a bad situation and then getting Kirk Cousins as your quarterback, like I think you're pretty safe. Sean McDermott.
I can't believe that he didn't get fired last offseason, to be honest. And it's
Yeah.
not that I think he should be fired, but
Based on what
there's a
happened
lot
and
of talk.
yeah.
The 9/11 thing is crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think other coaches would get fired just for that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're giving
It's
him a
not
long
good,
leash.
so it's okay.
Yeah, they're giving him a long leash, but I feel like he kind of over the years has kind of chewed away at it, and it's getting shorter. So I'm cool with warm seat, but if you disagree, then we
I
can
mean,
move
I think Wormsey's fine, but I do think that he earned a really solid relationship with. I mean, he turned them from dwindler, like one of the worst teams in the league, to the AFC East team. So
Right.
I get at some point there's like a scaredness to cut that off because you're taking a leap from very good to either great or terrible
Yeah,
again. So
he's like a worse Kyle Shanahan in that way.
yeah, he's like a warm blanket almost. You feel good when you're around him. Feel
Sean
safe.
McVay totally secure unless he retires or decides to leave. They're not going to fire
Yeah.
him. He's going to leave. You know.
Sean Payton totally secure given circumstances. They traded
Oh yeah,
big for
that's a fair point. Yeah, even though he should be one of these two, hot seat or
should
fired.
probably be fired.
Yeah. Shane Steichen. Oh man,
Unfortunately, hot seat.
I don't know if it's
People-
quite hot.
Dude, this team had like top seed expectations. Unreal expectations, but they were
I do wonder-
expectations.
I do wonder. The thing with me is that Chris Ballard, I think he understands that Richardson's a project quarterback, and if it doesn't pan out this year, then that's not a reason to fire your head coach that you just brought in, and you have to trust the process a little bit. Because I think Chris Ballard overall is a pretty smart GM.
Very
So,
smart guy, yeah.
I don't know if it's hot seat quite yet.
Maybe this offseason he'll spend the money that he has.
Yeah, exactly. Todd Bowles,
Todd Bowles,
pretty safe, I guess. As long as the team is playing well, I don't see a reason they would fire him.
yeah, this is a situation where the only reason he's not totally is because we can't guarantee his playoff or his team's making playoffs.
Yeah.
But as long as they do, he's not getting close to fired.
Yeah, and then Zach Taylor, hot seat. At this point, you just got to produce,
I'm
man.
in the fire tier. Fuck that guy.
If they lose against the Giants, I might be with you there.
If they lose against the Giants, I'm gonna record a video personally firing Zach Taylor.
That'll be fun. I'm excited for that if it happens. But
I'll
Yeah.
upload it to Twitter. I'll wear a nice suit. I'll put a tie on. I'll get all classy and be put it on Twitter saying, Zach Taylor, it is our grave decision to inform you that you are no longer the head coach of the you have completely failed your duties as a head coach since taking up to the Super Bowl, and every single season has been a since that season.
Yep.
In large part due to your inability to coach the team properly.
Right. It sucks, but that's the reality of the situation. And, if he does get fired, for example, hypothetically speaking, and he goes somewhere else and they're successful, it would make sense, because he has that capability to do it, but it just looks really bad right now. So that's our tier list, though.
Who's the last guy?
That's the interim Jets coach. I don't know who the interim actually is, but We're not gonna
It's
rank him.
their
I mean,
defensive coordinator. It should be Aaron Rodgers.
right? Yeah. You know what's even funnier though? What's even funnier is that Saleh gets fired probably because he takes away the play calling rights from Hackett. So then they fire, but then they don't even name Hackett the interim head coach. It's so bizarre, right? Like,
It's strictly because they can't justify, like, if they do that, and then the
yeah.
media would tear them apart.
I see what you're saying there, but I just still like I don't know if you truly believe that he would be better, then you would do it, right? Regardless of what the media says. I don't know.
This firing Saleh guarantees they're gonna finish below the Patriots in the division.
Ooh, well, we'll see how Drake May looks, but yeah,
Quinn, you're a Jet. Congratulations.
dude. Uh, but yeah, that's our tier list. A lot of totally secures. You know, not every coach is going to be fired. That makes perfect sense. And we kind of have a stare here a little bit, which makes a lot of sense. You know, usually
Yeah.
5 to 6 coaches will get fired every year, and 5 to 6 head coach openings are taking place. So we have 4 in the fired tier. One of them already happened, Robert Saleh. Then we have Antonio Pierce, Dennis Allen, and Doug Peterson. Then we have Nick Sirianni in punchable face. Instead of fired or hot seat. Then in hot seat, Kevin Stefanski, Matt Eberflus, Mike McCarthy, Zach Taylor. I wouldn't be surprised if all of them are fired. I wouldn't be surprised if none of them are fired, you know?
Right.
Warm seat, which it would take quite a bit to happen, but it's still possible for sure. Dave Canales, Jared Mayo, Mike McDaniel, Sean McDermott, and Shane Steichen. Then in
And
pretty
real quick,
safe.
I want to point out, I would argue that having a punchable face is worse than.
It might be. Because I don't know. I don't know if you get rehired.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Who wants to interview that guy?
He ruined the one opportunity he has. But then pretty safe. Combination of rookie head coaches because we haven't seen enough of them, as well as guys that have just had a job for a long time and you don't expect anything to happen really. But
And then Brian
again,
Dabble.
could happen. Yeah. Brian Cannelhan, Brian Dayball, Dan Quinn, John Gannon, Mike Tomlin, Raheem Morris, and Todd Bowles. And then in Totally Secure, again, half of the league pretty much. Andy Reid, Dan Campbell, D'Amico Ryans, Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, Kevin O'Connell, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDonald, Sean McVay, and Sean Payton. That's our tier list.
Yippee!
All right, and that'll wrap up our show as well tonight. Thank you everybody for tuning in and for sticking around this long. If you have, we always appreciate the support. Please, again, like I said earlier, leave a like and comment something. If you guys have a suggestion for a segment, you can always comment us. We're looking for draft ideas always. So that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, thanks everyone for all the support, and please continue. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, that wraps it up. This has been Coast to Coast. Tune into Lord of the Rings.